You stop trusting people, and everyone acts like that's a problem, like you're damaged, like you need to fix yourself. But you're not the problem, you're the solution. You stop trusting people because people proved they couldn't be trusted. You learned from experience. You adapted to reality. That's not broken. That's evolution. You gave people chances, multiple chances. You believed in their words, their promises, their potential, and they showed you exactly who they were. Liars, users, betrayers, people who smile to your face and stab you in the back. So you stopped trusting, and that was smart, because trust isn't something people deserve by default. Trust is earned, and most people haven't earned it. They want access without effort, loyalty without reciprocation, your vulnerability without protection. And you finally said no, not because you're cold, not because you're heartless, not because you're afraid, but because you're intelligent enough to see patterns, to recognize red flags, to protect yourself from people who've already shown you they'll hurt you. That's not trust issues. That's trust intelligence. And everyone who tells you to just trust again, those are people who either never got burned or people who benefit from you staying naive. But you're not naive anymore. You've seen too much. You've been through too much. You know too much. And that knowledge is power. Here's what they don't tell you about trust. It's not noble. It's not virtuous. It's not a strength. Trust is a gamble. And every time you trust someone, you're betting that they won't use your vulnerability against you. Sometimes you win. Most times you lose. And every loss costs you. Your peace, your security, your faith in people. So when you stop trusting, you're not closing yourself off. You're stopping the bleeding. You're refusing to keep losing, refusing to keep gambling with people who've already proven they play dirty. That's not fear. That's wisdom. But society hates that. Society needs you trusting, needs you open, needs you vulnerable. Because vulnerable people are easy to control, easy to manipulate, easy to exploit. Guarded people are dangerous. They ask questions. They set boundaries. They don't accept things at face value. They're harder to use, harder to betray, harder to break. So society tells you that not trusting is wrong, that you need to work on yourself, that you're the problem, but you're not the problem. The people who broke your trust are the problem. You're just the one who learned from it. And they hate that you learned. They hate that you adapted. They hate that you're not an easy target anymore. So they try to shame you, make you feel guilty for protecting yourself, make you think that having standards is having issues, but it's not. Having standards is having self-respect. Having boundaries is having intelligence. Having selective trust is having experience. And anyone who has a problem with that is someone who was counting on you staying naive. The betrayals that taught you. Let's talk about what taught you not to trust. It wasn't one thing. It was a collection, a pattern, a series of lessons that kept repeating until you finally got it. Maybe it was the friend who used your secrets against you the moment you had a falling out. Maybe it was the partner who promised forever and left the moment things got hard. Maybe it was the family member who was supposed to protect you, but sacrificed you for their comfort. Maybe it was the coworker who smiled in your face while taking credit for your work behind your back. Or maybe it was all of them. Different people, different situations, same betrayal. They took your trust and they weaponized it. They took your loyalty and they exploited it. They took your love and they abused it. and then they acted shocked when you finally stopped giving it. Like you were supposed to just keep trusting after they kept proving they couldn't be trusted. Like you were supposed to keep your hand on a hot stove just to prove you're not afraid of getting burned. But you learned. You finally learned that people will tell you who they are with their actions. That words mean nothing without consistency. That promises are just sounds unless they're backed by behavior. You learn that most people are only loyal until it costs them something. Only honest until the truth is inconvenient. Only there for you until they need to be there for themselves. And that learning hurt. God, it hurt. Because you didn't want to learn it. You wanted to believe in people. You wanted to trust that good intentions meant good actions. You wanted to have faith. But reality doesn't care what you want. Reality taught you what you need to know. That trust without evidence is just hope, and hope without wisdom is just naivety. So you stopped being naive. You stopped hoping without reason. You stopped trusting without proof. And that's not damage. That's growth. Why people want you to trust again. Here's why people keep telling you to trust again. Because your distrust makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to earn access, to prove themselves, to demonstrate consistency. And most people don't want to do that work. They want automatic trust, immediate access, instant intimacy. They want you to treat them like they're trustworthy before they've proven they are. And when you make them earn it, they get offended. They say you're damaged, that you're cold, that you're pushing people away. But what you're actually doing is filtering, protecting, choosing quality over quantity. You're refusing to give your trust to people who haven't earned it. And that's smart. Because the people who get offended by having to earn trust are the exact people you shouldn't trust. Real people understand. They know that trust is earned. They respect boundaries. They're willing to prove themselves. Fake people resist. They want access without effort. They see your standards as obstacles. They try to guilt you into lowering your guard. And that tells you everything you need to know. If someone has a problem with you being selective about who you trust, then there's someone who planned to betray that trust. If someone rushes you to open up before they've proven themselves, then there's someone who benefits from you not having time to see their red flags. If someone tells you that not trusting is a problem, then there's someone who needs you vulnerable to maintain their advantage. So when people tell you to trust again, what they're really saying is, stop making us work for it. Stop having standards. Stop protecting yourself. Stop making us prove we're different from the people who hurt you. But you won't, because you know better now. You know that easy trust leads to hard lessons, that open doors invite unwanted guests, that vulnerability without discernment is just self-destruction. So you keep your standards. You keep your boundaries. You keep your guard up. Not forever. Not with everyone. But until someone proves they deserve otherwise. And that's exactly what you should do. The power in control. Access. Here's what changes when you stop trusting blindly. You become powerful. Because trust is access. And access is power. When you trusted everyone, you gave power away freely. You let people into your life, into your mind, into your heart, without knowing if they deserved it. And they took advantage. They used that access to hurt you, to control you, to take from you. But now you control the access. You decide who gets in. You determine who's worthy. And that changes everything. Suddenly people have to prove themselves. They have to show consistency. They have to demonstrate that they're safe. They have to earn you. And most people can't. Most people fail the test in the first few interactions. They show their selfishness, their dishonesty, their inability to reciprocate. And you see it early now, before they can do real damage, before they get deep enough to really hurt you. You catch the red flags you used to ignore. You hear the lies you used to believe. You see the patterns you used to excuse, and you cut them off, early, cleanly, without guilt. Because you know what happens when you ignore red flags. You know what happens when you give people the benefit of the doubt they haven't earned. You get hurt, used, betrayed. So you don't ignore. You don't excuse. You don't rationalize. You protect. You filter. You choose. And the people who make it through that filter, the ones who earn your trust, those are different. Those are the rare ones, the real ones. The ones who prove they could handle your vulnerability without weaponizing it. Those are the relationships worth having, the people worth keeping, the connections worth investing in. Everyone else is just noise. Background characters. People who wanted access but couldn't meet the requirements. And that's fine. That's necessary. That's how you build a life with quality people instead of quantity people. This is the power you didn't have before. The power to choose, to protect, to filter. The power to say, this is what I require, and if you can't meet it, then you don't get access to me. That's not being difficult. That's having standards. That's not being closed off. That's being selective. That's not having trust issues. That's having trust intelligence. Listen, how to trust without being stupid. So here's the question everyone has. If you don't trust people blindly, how do you trust at all? The answer is simple. You trust strategically. You give people small tests, limited access, controlled vulnerability. You tell them something minor and see if it stays private. You ask for a small favor and see if they follow through. You set a boundary and see if they respect it. And you watch, you observe, you pay attention, not to their words, but to their actions. Not to their promises, but to their patterns. Not to who they say they are, but to who they prove to be. And you do this over time, not days, not weeks, months, sometimes years. Because anyone can pretend for a day. Most people can fake it for a week. Some can even maintain the act for a month. But consistency over time, that's what reveals truth. So you give people time. You give them opportunities to prove themselves. You give them space to show you who they really are. And most people fail. They reveal their selfishness, their dishonesty, their inability to be consistent. And when they do, you don't make excuses, you don't rationalize, you don't give them another chance. You just remove access, quietly, cleanly, without drama. Because you're not interested in punishing people. You're interested in protecting yourself. And protection means cutting off people who prove they can't be trusted before they get deep enough to cause real damage. But some people pass the tests. Some people prove consistent. Some people earn more access through time and behavior. And with those people, you can trust. Not blindly, not completely, but appropriately. You can trust them with what they've proven they can handle. You can give them access based on what they've earned. You can be vulnerable in proportion to their demonstrated safety. That's smart trust. That's strategic trust. That's trust that doesn't leave you broken because you're not trusting the person. You're trusting the evidence. You're trusting the pattern. You're trusting what they've consistently proven. And if that pattern changes, if they start showing inconsistency or dishonesty or selfishness, you adjust. You pull back. You limit access. You protect yourself. Because trust isn't permanent. It's conditional. It's based on continued behavior. And the moment someone proves they're not who you thought they were, you adapt. That's not trust issues. That's trust wisdom. The people who earn it. Let me tell you about the people who will earn your trust. They won't rush you. They won't pressure you. They won't make you feel bad for being guarded. They'll understand because they've been hurt too. Because they know trust is earned. Because they respect your caution. They'll give you time. They'll prove themselves through actions. They'll show consistency without being asked. They'll respect your boundaries without making you feel difficult. They'll accept your pace without complaining it's too slow. They'll understand that your walls aren't there to keep everyone out. They're there to filter who gets in. And they'll be willing to be filtered, to be tested, to prove they're different from the people who hurt you. These people are rare, so rare that you might go years without meeting one. But when you do, when you find someone who meets your standards without being offended by having standards, you'll know, because it will feel different. It won't feel like work. It won't feel like you're constantly on guard. It won't feel like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. It will feel safe, real, mutual, and you'll be able to trust them, not blindly, but appropriately, based on evidence, based on time, based on proven behavior. That's the kind of trust that lasts. That's the kind of relationship that works. That's the kind of connection that's actually worth having. Not the kind where you ignore red flags and hope for the best. Not the kind where you trust first and ask questions later. But the kind where trust is built brick by brick through consistent positive action over time. That's real trust. That's healthy trust. That's the trust that doesn't leave you broken. And you'll never find those people if you keep trusting everyone. If you keep giving access freely, if you keep hoping that the next person will be different without making them prove it, you have to filter, you have to test, you have to protect yourself. And yes, that means you'll be alone more. That means most people won't make it through. That means your circle will be small. But small and real beats large and fake every single time. Quality over quantity. Always. Listen, what you gain by not trusting. Here's what you gain when you stop trusting blindly. Peace. Real, actual peace. The kind you haven't felt in years, because you're not constantly anxious about being betrayed. You're not wondering when the other shoe will drop. You're not analyzing every interaction for signs of deception. You're just protected. Guarded, safe. And that safety allows you to breathe, to relax, to exist without constantly being on high alert. You also gain clarity. When you stop trusting everyone, you start seeing people clearly. You see who they actually are instead of who you hope they are. You see the manipulators before they get close. You spot the users before they take. You recognize the betrayers before they betray. And that clarity saves you. It protects you. It keeps you from wasting time and energy on people who were never going to be real. You gain self-respect. Because every time you protect yourself, every time you maintain your standards, every time you refuse to lower your guard for someone who hasn't earned it, you're telling yourself that you matter. That your safety is important, that your peace is valuable, that you're worth protecting, and that self-respect changes everything. It changes how you see yourself, how you carry yourself, how you allow others to treat you. You gain power. The power to choose who gets access to you. The power to protect your energy. The power to build a life with only people who've proven they deserve a place in it. That's real power. Not control over others, but sovereignty over yourself. And you gain time. All the time you used to waste on people who didn't deserve it. All the energy you used to spend on relationships that were draining you. All the emotion you used to invest in people who never reciprocated. That all comes back to you now, and you can invest it in yourself, in your growth, in your peace. That's what you gain. And it's worth more than the false comfort of blind trust. I'm not going to lie to you. This path is lonely at first. When you stop trusting people, when you start filtering ruthlessly, when you maintain high standards, most people don't make it through. Your circle shrinks, your phone gets quieter, your social life slows down, and that feels isolating. It feels wrong. It makes you question if you're doing the right thing. But that loneliness is temporary. It's necessary. It's the space between who you used to be and who you're becoming. You're not losing people. You're losing access to people who were never really there in the first place. You're removing the fake connections to make room for real ones. You're clearing out the noise to hear the signal. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it feels empty. Yes, you'll have moments where you wonder if it's worth it, but it is. Because the alternative is being surrounded by people and still feeling alone. Having a full contact list, but nobody you can actually trust. Being in relationships that drain you instead of fill you. That's the real loneliness. The kind that exists in a crowd. The kind that makes you feel invisible even when you're surrounded. This loneliness is different. This is chosen solitude. This is protective isolation. This is the space you need to heal and rebuild and become someone who can't be easily broken. And it's temporary, because eventually you'll find your people, the rare ones who pass your tests, the real ones who earn your trust, the consistent ones who prove they deserve access. And when you do, your circle will be small, but it will be solid. It will be real. It will be worth every moment of loneliness you endured to find it. That's the trade. Temporary loneliness for permanent peace. Short-term isolation for long-term security. And it's worth it. Every time. So embrace the loneliness. Don't fight it. Don't try to fill the void with people who don't deserve to fill it. Just exist in the space. Heal in the quiet. Rebuild in the solitude. Because what comes next, what you build from this foundation, is stronger than anything you had before. What's next? So you stop trusting people. Smart move. Now here's what's next. You trust yourself. You trust your instincts, your gut feelings, your pattern recognition. You trust that when something feels off, it probably is. You trust that when someone shows you red flags, you should pay attention. You trust that your discomfort is information, not paranoia, because you've earned that trust. You've proven to yourself that you can read situations, that you can protect yourself, that you can make good decisions about who deserves access. That's the trust that matters most. Not trust in other people, trust in yourself. And from that foundation, you can build everything else. You can let people in when they've earned it. You can be vulnerable when it's safe. You can trust when the evidence supports it. But you never sacrifice your self-trust to make others comfortable. You never ignore your instincts to give people chances they haven't earned. You never lower your standards to avoid being alone. Because being alone is better than being with people who make you feel alone. Having no one is better than having the wrong ones. Solitude is better than toxic company. That's what's next. A life where you're selective, where you're protected, where you only let in people who've proven they deserve to be there. A life where trust is earned, not given, where access is controlled, not automatic, where your peace is protected, not sacrificed. That's the life you build from here, not by learning to trust again, but by learning to trust wisely. Not by opening up to everyone, but by opening up to the right ones. Not by ignoring what you learned, but by applying it. You don't have trust issues. You have trust standards. You're not damaged. You're educated. You're not closed off. You're selective. And that's exactly what you should be. So keep your guard up. Keep your standards high. Keep testing people before you trust them. And don't let anyone make you feel bad for protecting yourself. The people who deserve your trust will earn it. The people who don't will complain about it. And that's how you know who's who. You stop trusting people, and that was smart. What's next is you build a life where trust is rare, valuable, and only given to those who prove they can handle it. That's not cynicism. That's wisdom. That's not fear. That's intelligence. That's not damage. That's growth. And anyone who has a problem with that is someone you were right not to trust. So trust yourself, trust your standards, trust your process, and let everyone else earn their way in or stay out. That's what's next, and it's exactly what you need.